attention. Rabbi Ginsburgh is going to speak for about an hour, and then if people have questions, I'm sure you'll have lots of questions, you can continue with the questions and eating and drinking. And because we're starting a little bit late, he was going to speak longer, but that's the way it's going to be.
No, we're waiting for them to end.
No?
We're waiting to end the model.
Oh. As soon as we end tomorrow, we'll start.
Can I record you?
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here in Toronto after many years. Last week was Purim. Another 3 weeks is Pesach. There's a famous saying of the sages that it's a mitzvah lemismach geula ligula, to connect the redemptions, the two redemptions, to connect the redemption of Purim to the redemption of Pesach. The Chassidut has taught that in the merit of this connection, on this period of time between Purim and Pesach, will also connect to the final redemption of Mashiach, that will come in and bring peace to earth and bring a new dimension of the Torah to all of mankind. That all of mankind will return to serve Hashem with one heart. So It means it's a very auspicious time. It's a time, special time of bringing redemption by connecting Purim to Pesach. So the question is, how do we do it? What does it mean and how do we do it? The word lemismach, which is the verb that Chazal used, the sages used in order to connect the two redemption together, is actually the letter samech in Hebrew. In Hebrew there are 22 letters. The 15th of the 22 letters is the letter samech, which is written like a circle. It represents a cycle. And that letter samech means affinity, actually, or proximity. The two things are close to one another, and two things touch one another. That's the meaning of the letter samech. So it means that we have to make these two redemptions, Purim and Pesach, actually touch one another and thereby connect to one another. The word samech is cognate in Hebrew. Means that phonetically it's very closely related to the word sameach. Even though two letters are slightly different, but phonetically they sound the same. The samech of samech and the sin of sameach are actually interchangeable throughout the Hebrew language. And the chaf, the final letter of samech, and the chet of sameach are phonetically the same, even though they come from two different parts of the mouth. The chet comes from the throat, and the chaf comes from the palate. But in Kabbalah we're taught that the throat and the palate is actually a union of father and mother in the mouth. Meaning that to approximate, or to bring close and touch, is related to being happy. What is the common denominator between Purim and Pesach? Pesach is the first of the festivals of the year in the Torah. All of the festivals are for happiness. Moadim l'simcha, like we say in the prayers. So it's very interesting. In the context of Pesach in the Torah, the word be happy on Pesach does not appear in the Torah. In the other holidays of Shavuos and Sukkot, it says explicitly in the Torah to be happy. Shavuos it says one time to be happy. In Sukkot it says actually 3 times. There's 3 different times it says be happy on the holiday of Sukkot. That's why the holiday of Sukkot is called Zman Simchatenu, the time of our happiness. Because the most expressions of happiness are in the Torah around Sukkot. But nonetheless, the source of being happy that God has given us a holiday that redeems all of the holidays are because of the redemption from Egypt. So it all goes back to Pesach. That's the reason for all of the holidays. It's all for Simcha. And the source of Simcha is Pesach. But the epitome, it says, the high point of Simcha in the whole year is Purim. Even more than Zman Simchatenu. Even more than Simchat Torah. The highest Simcha, joy of the year is Purim. It's a holiday from the rabbis. It's not in the Torah because it took place much later. In any event, the first idea that we're now saying is that the power of the soul that unites these two holidays, Purim and Pesach, is taking the climax of Simcha, of Purim, and connecting it to the source, to the origin of Simcha. The origin of Simcha is the Exodus, is Pesach. And once more, the illusion is that word, lemismach, geula, to approximate, touch, the redemption, and thereby to merit to the final redemption, Mashiach, is through Simcha. Even the word Mashiach itself is a permutation of letters Yismach, he will be happy. Mashiach. Not many people realize when they say the word Mashiach, it's really And literally it means to anoint. But the letters Mashiach spell shall be happy. Shall be happy can also be read in two ways. Either he will be happy, or he will make Yisamach, he will make other people happy. And the figure, the ideal figure of the Redeemer, Mashiach, is a person who is permeated with joy, with happiness. He's happy in himself, and he projects and radiates the joy to all peoples, to the Jewish people, to the whole world, makes everybody happy. That's the way to recognize, when a point to recognize who the Mashiach is. So he's the happiest soul on earth, and he makes people happy. So once more, this is the way to connect the two redemptions together through Simcha. About Simcha, it says that Mishen Nichnas Hadar Marbim B'Simcha. The Simcha of Purim begins from the beginning of the month. We're still in the month of Adar, the month of Purim, which is also the month of Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was born and passed away on the same day, Zayin Adar. It says on the same day that he passed away, he is reborn. That's also a source of happiness, that in every generation, Moses, the leader of the generation, is reborn. That brings happiness to the people, that we have a leader. Mordechai b'doro, Moshe b'doro. Mordechai in his generation is the same as Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation, to the extent that it actually said that they're really the same soul, just in a new body, a new reincarnation. That's the 7th of Adar, is the birthday and passing of Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Simcha begins from the very beginning. Mishen Nichnas Hadar. As soon as Adar enters, we begin to increase and enhance and augment our Simcha, our joy. A question is asked, how long does that take? How long does that continue? That mitzvah to day by day try to be happier and happier and happier every day. So the first thought that comes to mind is that it's from the beginning of the month to Purim. Is Purim at the climax? That's what I would think. But we're taught no, that even after Purim is over, now we're after Purim, a few days after Purim, we still have this momentum of accelerated simcha. You can be at a steady state of velocity, and you can be in a state of acceleration. Marbim b'simcha means that the simcha has to accelerate day by day. You don't stop. You push on the pedal more and more every single day. So the second thought is that maybe that mitzvah to increase simcha is maybe from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. Because it says, Mishen Nichnas Adar, from the time the Adar enters, start. Push on your pedal of simcha and keep accelerating. But it says no, that it's more than that. That this very mitzvah that we began talking about, which is the mismach, Geula Ligula, to touch the two Geulot, is through simcha, means that we have to continue to increase the simcha from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which is coming up. This Shabbos will be Shabbat M'varchim Chodesh Nisan. The next Shabbos will be Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and it has to continue all the way to Pesach. On Pesach, we were redeemed, and the sages enacted a takana that in addition to the matzahs that we eat, the unleavened bread that we eat on Pesach, which is a commandment in the Torah, that we're not allowed to eat chometz. That's the very name of the holiday in the Torah, is Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of the matzah. The sages enacted also to drink 4 cups, 4 glasses of wine. The greatest drinking of the year is Purim. Because you have to drink so much, that you go out or above your mind and don't even know how to distinguish or differentiate between cursed is Oman and blessed is Mordechai. To that extent, you literally fall on the bed. On the Pesach, it doesn't say that you have to become drunk, but many people after four big glasses of wine are also a little bit high. So the sages wanted us to be high on Pesach also. So that's a very explicit connection between the two. Is the drink. Why did they say four? 4 cups of wine. How many matzahs, according to most minhagim, most customs, we take 3 matzahs for the Seder. So we have 3. At the end of the Seder, most people say or sing the song, Yechad mi yodeh, who knows 1, who knows 2, who knows 3. Well, the 3 is the patriarchs. Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, meaning that the matzahs correspond to the 3 patriarchs. And the wine, the 4 cups is 4. Who knows 4? I know 4. 4 are the 4 matriarchs. There's something about the wine, we'll explain more, is a mother concept, or a mother figure. The matzahs is a father figure. So what's wrong with why? What's the source for the 4 cups of wine? The source is that in the Torah it says 4 different expressions called lishonot of Geula, of redemption. Arba'a lishonot shel Geula. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu to give over to the Jewish people before the Exodus. V'hotzeti, I will take you out of Egypt. V'itzalti, I will save you from the bondage of Egypt. V'ga'alti, I will redeem you from Egypt. V'lakachti, I will take you to myself. Those are called the 4 expressions of redemption. V'hotzeti, take you out. Itzalti, save you. Ga'alti, redeem you. Each one has a different nuance to it and a different meaning. And finally, the last one is V'lakachti. Lakachti, I will take you to myself. It says that the final one comes to its consummation at the end of the Sfirat HaOmer. Starting from the 2nd day of Pesach, we begin to count 49 days of the Omer. And then the 50th day is Chag Shavuot, meaning the culmination, the consummation of Pesach itself is Shavuot. Shavuot, Shavuos in relation to Pesach is like Shmini Atzeres, the final day of Sukkot in relation to the holiday of Sukkot. It's just that Sukkot we don't wait 50 days because it would already be deep into the winter, especially when coming from here, and it's very hard to travel to Jerusalem. So this is a simple reason why the Atzeret, to include the culmination of Sukkot, is also proximate. It's Somov, it's right after the 7 days of Sukkot, you have the day of Shmini Atzeres. But that day of Atzeres, the holiday of Shavuos in the Torah is called Atzeres. And this is the end. The end of Pesach is actually Shavuos. When did Hashem take us to Himself? Which is the final expression of redemption. So He took us to Himself when He gave us the Torah on Shavuos. Actually, all of the 4 different expressions of Geula are 4 stages in the Geula. And the final, last stage of the Geula is Shavuos itself. So if the Simcha begins from the beginning of the month, we have to once more stepping on our pedal of Simcha, more and more Simcha, that has to continue actually all the way to Chag Shavuot, to the giving of the Torah. Maybe it has to continue forever. Maybe we never stop. But just like it says, "Mishenichnas Adar marbim simcha." From the beginning of Adar, we have to start increasing the joy. When we reach the month of Av, the 5th month of the year, beginning from Nisan, so it says the very opposite. It says, "Mishenichnas Adar ma'atim b'simcha." When Av end begins, then we have to start decreasing the joy. One of the readings in Chassidut means not to stop being happy, but just the opposite. Ma'atim b'simcha, we have to decrease all of the bad phenomena, the evil decrees that took place on Tisha B'Av, in the desert, and the destruction of the first temple, and the destruction of the second temple. We have to mourn on those days. But we also have to keep our spirits high, even in mourning. So it says, Mima'atim, we decrease our external expression of joyful activity, but in our hearts we're still happy because we're Jews and we're together with Hashem in any case, in any situation whatsoever. And through being happy, even in mourning, that decreases the reason for mourning. That also brings closer the reinstitution of the temple, the building of the third temple. Nonetheless, at the external level, we go down. So it means that marbim b'simcha, increasing joy from day to day, which begins on Adar, has to, from Av, go down. How long does it go down for? We asked the same question before about increasing. We said increasing, I would have thought maybe it's just until Purim. Purim is the climax and then it's over. Av, the decreasing of joy, is very limited, because it's clear that immediately after Tisha B'Av is over, we reach a low. It says that Tisha B'Av is the low point of the year. As soon as you reach that low point, then things begin to grow and to increase. And 6 days later, on the 15th of Av, is also called one of the happiest days of the whole year. It's the day of shidduchim, of making matches. So it means that decrease is very limited. But the increase appears to be unlimited, but we not reach that point that it says you have to decrease. And the decrease is also not an eternal state. When Mashiach will come, then the temple will be rebuilt. Those days of mourning. Amen. I don't think, okay. The very days of mourning will be converted and transformed into days of happiness. The whole dry walk and the 3 weeks will become one big holiday. So actually, at that point, when Mashiach comes, Yismach Yisamach, so the whole year will just be the whole year and all of eternity will be a acceleration of joy from day to day. But now in our order, still in exile, so we increase joy beginning Adar, and we don't stop at Purim, and we don't stop at Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we don't stop even at Pesach, and we go all the way to Shavuos, and the leftovers we still have until the beginning of Rosh Chodesh. So this is a beautiful example in Kabbalah of the basic model of any true phenomenon which is parallel to the 4 letters of Hashem's name. For those that are a little bit familiar, or the beginning of increasing of joy from Rosh Chodesh Adar, from the first day of Adar until Purim itself, is called the Malchut of joy. It's the kingdom. Purim, the Megillat Esther, the thing we read on Purim, begins with this Goyish king Achashverosh, this very, very picturesque king. It makes a celebration, a feast for 180 days straight. A half a year just sit and drink with him. And it was actually a sin that we participated in his food, which was not kosher food. To say a little bit more about him, who this king is. But the joy is all the joy of kingdom. What happens is Mordechai becomes finally the viceroy to the king, the major advisor to the king, and he inherits he receives the house of Haman and everything. There's all the joy of kingship. From that day of Purim, the joy that increases all the way to Pesach, but not including Pesach, we're now in this period of time. The joy which we said before, Lemismat, which unites Purim to Pesach, is called Natata Simcha B'Libi, the joy of the emotions of the heart. And we're going up in joy through the 4 letters of Hashem's name. Malchut kingdom is the last letter, the Hey, the final Hey. Then there's the joy of the emotion of the joy of love and awe and mercy, all of the other attributes of the heart. That joy is what we're supposed to be experiencing now in this period. And that's the joy that connects the 2 holidays together, of Purim and Pesach. Then, the joy of Pesach itself, and all the way to Shavuos actually, but not including Shavuos yet, is the joy of what's called Ima, of the mother. We said the joy is related especially to the mother figure. The first Hey of Hashem's name, understanding. The very holiday of Pesach is called Zman Chirutenu, just like we said before. The holiday of Sukkot is called the time of our joy and happiness. What is the corresponding name for Pesach that's coming up? It's the Hoya, the time of our liberation. Zman Chirutenu. For women, this period is also very important for women because it's a period of working hard to clean the house for Pesach. So you have to know, you should have joy in your heart, with all the emotions of the heart whilst you're cleaning. But then the liberation is when it comes, the holiday of Pesach, then it's over. Then the house is clean, everything's fixed the way it should be. In Kabbalah, Chirut, liberation, is a term that corresponds to called the mother figure. Because the heart is still, the 6 attributes of the heart are called the 6 days of creation, still limited, it's still finite within the parameters of creation. But, so to speak, like a rocket leaves the gravity of the earth and just breaks out. In the same way, Pesach liberation and Exodus is breaking out of the parameters of nature. All of the miracles of Exodus, around the Exodus, were supernatural. That's called the revelation of Hashem's name. And that experience of liberation, of not being confined within the servitude to Egypt. The very word Mitzrayim means limitations. Egypt in Hebrew means to be confined and limited, the name of the word. To break out of that gravity, that's called the mother concept in Kabbalah, Chirut. This is a very, very important word. The limitation is all in the 6 attributes of the heart, which correspond to the 6 days of creation. Above that, before that, it's called the pure mental faculties, of which there are three. Chokhmah Binah Dat, Rashi Tevot, the initial spelled the word Chabad. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So actually, if we combine those three words, Chokhmah Binah Dat, together, it equals 614, one more than the number of commandments in the Torah. And that number, as a word, as one word, is the word Chirut, liberation. Zman Chirutim, the time of our liberation. Well, that's already a higher level of Simcha. Simcha is experienced in a higher level of the soul. What we're trying to now say is that all levels of the soul, there is an experience of happiness. From one perspective, the experience of happiness of Malchus, of kingdom, which reaches its climax on Purim, in a certain way is the greatest happiness of all. The more spiritual you become, rising up to the levels of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, of the four letters of Hashem's name, is entering to each one is a more and more spiritual realm. And there's happiness. So spiritually it's very, very great happiness, but at the very physical level, why is the happiness of Purim the greatest happiness? Because our bodies were saved. The decree was against the body, it says, the body of the Jewish people, of every Jewish individual. The decree was to kill, was to exterminate all Jewish people. So that the simcha of that metamorphosis, transformation, is physically the greatest simcha of all. But then, as we continue, we ourselves are now in different realms, spiritual realms of our own soul, and we must experience simcha at every level. So we said the second level is experiencing simcha in the heart, the emotions of the heart. The third level is experiencing simcha in understanding, which are already liberated from the confines of nature. And but the final one is chokhmah. What is the Torah? This is the clearest of all. The Torah is an expression of Hashem's essential wisdom. He and his wisdom are one, he and his will are one. The Torah is the will of God, the wisdom of God. That's V'lakachti. How do we know that V'lakachti is it refers to the Torah? Because it says, Lekach tov natati lechem. I've given you a good portion, a good taking, Lekach. Lekach tov natati lechem torati al ta'azov. Do not abandon or leave my Torah. So that's the fourth term of redemption. I have taken you to myself, implying that I've also given you a part of myself. The first word of the Ten Commandments that we heard on Mount Sinai is Anochi, I. The Chazal say in the Gemara that word I, Anochi, is an acronym for Ana Nashai Ktavit Yehavit. I have written and given you myself. My very self I've inscribed and given to you in the Torah. The Torah is God giving himself to us, making himself, as it were, a part of us. That's called V'lakachti. So that joy is a joy at the level of wisdom. Then the remainder of the days between Shavuot until the beginning of the 3 weeks, we'll say, it's already a decrease, even though it doesn't say we decrease from the beginning of the 3 weeks, it's just from the beginning of Av. But really, the days of mourning begin from the 3 weeks, which is the end from the 17th day of Tammuz. So what remains, that remainder, is even coming from a higher superconscious level of the soul, which is above wisdom. Wisdom is the beginning of the consciousness of the soul. But above wisdom is called the crown of the soul, the superconscious. So now we've described the process of joy beginning from Adar and reaching to the 3 weeks. And then the 3 weeks is a decrease, but then just in 6 days there's a tremendous acceleration until we reach the 15th day of Av, the day of Shidduchim. The very word marbim, to increase joy, the word is marbim. What's the first time that word appears in the Torah? To increase. To increase means to multiply. To excel. Marbim refers explicitly to fruitful, be fruitful and multiply, to children, to having children, many children. It's also for women. It's the woman's mitzvah. Don't stop having children, as many as possible. That's called marbim. What gives the mother the power, the conviction to continue having children? It's not easy to have children. Simcha, joy. Ema batim smicha. A mother of children is joyful, is happy. If she has joy, she should have joy, of course, with every child. She will have more and more, even though it's hard. It's called marbim. Marbim bisimcha. To have more children because of ever augmenting levels of simcha. Okay, so this was what we did right now. Was one idea about the different stages of simcha, and especially we began from the fact that with simcha we make touch the 2 redemptions of Purim and Pesach, and thereby we merit the final redemption of Mashiach. I will say another idea about what Chazal mean, what the sages mean, that we have now in this period of time, the mitzvah to connect the 2 redemptions together. Every redemption is a redemption from some evil monarch or authority that is placing us in servitude. It can be something, it was something physical, an evil king in both cases of Purim and Pesach, but obviously it can also be something spiritual in the soul. But Purim represents being under the sovereignty of some Achashverosh that listens to his advisor. Actually, Chazal called him his lover. He had a lover. Haman was initially his lover. At the end, he killed his lover. I'll say that he was a melech chanaf, is the expression. He was a hypocrite, Achashverosh, that he killed his wife for his lover, and then he killed his lover for his wife. First, he killed his wife Vashti because of the advice that his lover gave to him, which is Haman. And then the whole story, the whole miracle is that he killed his lover, he killed Haman because of his wife Esther. Harag ishto mipnei ohavo, v'harag ohavo mipnei ishto. That's the expression of Chazal. There's many beautiful allusions to it when you take the Gematria. Melech Hanaf harag ishto mipnei ohavo, v'harag ohavo mipnei ishto. Right, so now we have this king Achashverosh that we're enslaved to, we're under his regime, and we become liberated in the merit of Mordechai HaYehudi and Esther HaMalka. What about Pesach? So Pesach, the evil king, his name is Pharaoh, Paro. And we're enslaved to him, and Hashem works a supernatural miracle and miracles, and we become liberated from Obviously, these two figures of liberation, which have to do with redemption, means to understand what it means to be redeemed from Achashverosh, and what it means to be redeemed from Pharaoh. Obviously, it must be two different things. First of all, there's a question that the sages ask, why we don't say Hallel on Purim. On Pesach is the day of Hallel. On all the holidays we say Hallel, the holidays of the Torah, but the greatest Hallel, which is called Hallel Mitzrayim, the Hallel of the Exodus, is the Hallel of Pesach. It's so great that it's only once in the whole year, according to whoever follows the customs of Kabbalah, Chassidut, Minhag Sfarad, of the Sephardic communities, Hallel is said at night. The night of the Seder. It's included in the Seder, in the Haggadah of Pesach. Hallel is part of it. But in Shul, we also say Hallel before, at night. That the night, Hallel means, the very word Hallel means to praise, but it also means light. It's one of the 13 synonyms in Hebrew for light. So light is a phenomenon of the day, of daytime, not of nighttime. We never say Hallel at night, except one time a year. That's the night of Pesach. And the reason is, it says that Laila Kayom Yair, this is the one night of the year that shines like day. But the Seder night is daytime. And it's so much daytime, it's twice, double daytime. 2 Hallels at night. So once more, the greatest time of Hallel is Pesach itself. And the climax of joy of the whole year is Purim, but we don't say Hallel. Why not? So there are a few different opinions in the Gemara, actually 3 different opinions. One opinion is that Akate Avdeta Achashverosh. The miracle of Purim, however great it is, and our great simcha we must have on Purim, and drink under Lo Yada, but at the end of the whole story, we're still enslaved to Achashverosh. We're still in exile. The miracle took place in Chutz La'aretz. And it was not a miracle of being liberated from Chutz La'aretz, like the exodus from Egypt and coming to Eretz Israel. After the 4 expressions of redemption, there's a 5th word, Ve'iveti. After I take you to myself, then it says, I will bring you to the land of Israel. That the ultimate goal of the Exodus is to come to Israel. But Purim took place in Shoshana Bira, in Persia, and we were still there, we still remained there, even though very shortly afterwards we returned from the exile to build the second temple, just after. But the experience of that moment was that we're still, after all is said and done, we're still slaves to Achashverosh, and that's why we don't say Hallel. It's one of the explanations in the Gemara. So again, we have to understand, what are these 2 kings? What do they represent spiritually? First is a beautiful allusion, the initial letters of these 2 kings that we're now in between these 2 kings, this period of time. We're in between Achashverosh and Pharaoh. Achashverosh begins with the letter Aleph in Hebrew, and Paro begins with the letter Pei. And you put them together, it's a simple word in Hebrew, Af. Af can mean even, or it can mean nose, or it can mean anger. Because anger as an idiom is like fire coming out of the nose. Where does that word appear? It appears in a very famous verse in Isaiah that reads, a verse about creation, how God created the world. It says, Bera'ati v'yitzarti af asiti, I have created it, I have formed it, and I have even made it. That is the verse in the whole Bible from where we learn that there are three lower worlds called creation, formation, action. The verse is Bera'ativ, I have created it. Yitzartiv, I have formed it. Af, Asitiv, even created it. So why do you have to have that word Af in between formation and action? It says that the word Af comes to split, to sever the lower world, the lowest world in which we live, from the worlds above it. Even though the two worlds above it are also called lower worlds because they possess self-consciousness, the highest world of emanation does not possess self-consciousness, only divine consciousness. Self-consciousness begins from creation. Creation is called ex nihilo. Ex nihilo is yesh, behind something from nothing. What does it mean something? Something is something that knows itself, as though it were separate from its source. So even the world of creation and formation also has a state of self-consciousness, but there's a total disengagement between the psychological state of Yetzirah, formation, and the lowest world that we live in, which is action. And that is represented by this word af. So it actually means anger, because if people do not know at all that God exists, and that His providence looks over us, and as it were, that arouses the charon av, the anger of the Creator, that here I'm creating, I'm providing for you, giving you life and goodness every second, every moment, and you don't recognize me at all, and do the very opposite of my will in this world. That's av, avasiti. So who is that av? In these days between Purim and Pesach, that av is this process of moving from the servitude to Achashverosh, which is the outer, to Pharaoh. Now, we'll just say in very, very short what it means. What it means in the psalm, teaching us what we're supposed to be doing now in the merit of being happy, or through the means of being happy. Achashverosh represents the king who is totally into lust, taiva. Once more, the whole story begins with 180 days of feast, and give everybody what he wants. Kiratzonish vayish. And we participate in that lustful feast. That was why the decree was decreed in heaven against us, through the means of Haman, but it began in heaven. Because we participated, we had pleasure, we enjoyed the lust of Achashverosh. What does Pharaoh represent? What lust is ta'ava. Very often is asked in the Hasidic literature, what is the worst attribute? Where do all bad things come from? So there are two possibilities. One is taiva, which is lust, and the other is gaiva. They rhyme. So God thinks gaiva is conceit, arrogance. Pharaoh represents the epitome of arrogance. Li o rivam yasititi. Anivam siodam. I am, and there is nothing besides me. Pharaoh made himself into God. In the story of the Megillah, it doesn't say that Achashverosh made himself into God, it says that Haman actually made himself into God. That's why Mordechai was not willing to bow down to him. So Achashverosh is pure lust. And Pharaoh is pure conceit. conceit, pure arrogance. Psychologically, there are two different opinions of what is responsible for what is worth, what comes first. In Chabad, it's very clear that just like historically, Paro precedes Achashverosh, so also in the soul, the Ga'ava comes first. In any event, we have to rectify both of them. Not let the lust gain sovereignty over ourselves, and certainly not let the conceit and arrogance take over ourselves. And the teaching is that there's an experience of joy which helps us get over those two pillars of evil. And that's the joy of these days between redemption and redemption. Through that joy we surpass these two obstacles, and thereby we will merit the final redemption. Another idea, an important idea, the two holidays of Purim and Pesach have in common the first letter. Purim and Pesach, which is relatively a rare letter in the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the letter Pei. Purim starts with a Pei, and Pesach also starts with a Pei. It's very interesting that the king of Pesach, the evil king of Pesach that we just talked about, his name is Paro. Sounds like Purim. Paro begins with the same two letters, which is the basic syllable of Purim, Pa. So there's already some connection between Pharaoh and Purim and Purim and Pharaoh. But the two names of the holidays themselves both begin with the same letter. What does that letter mean? Every letter has a simple meaning to it. Pei means mouth. So it means that the relationship, the connection between these two holidays, Purim and Purim, is from mouth to mouth. What does it say from mouth to mouth? Peh al peh. Both of them have to do with eating. On Purim, the mitzvah is to have once more to have a feast, a holy feast, with the emphasis on the drinking. On Pesach, it all begins with a big feast of the Seder night. The emphasis in the Torah is on the eating of the matzah, of the lechem honi, the bread of servitude, commemorating what we ate in Egypt. So we just explained that the sages added to that the 4 cups of wine that we drink. The relationship between the written Torah and the oral Torah is also a relation between father and mother. The written Torah comes from the father principle, the oral Torah comes from the mother principle. And that's why the sages added the 4 cups, which correspond actually to the 4 matriarchs. The 3 matzahs correspond to the patriarchs, to the fathers. That comes from the father, from the written Torah. In any event, we now have a new obvious common denominator between these two holidays of Purim and Pesach, which is the mouth. On Purim, we reach a state of Ad lo yada, that we don't know to distinguish between Aror Haman and Baruch Hu. At the end, we don't say anything, we just follow as we said before. On Pesach, together with drinking the 4 cups, we're not supposed to get drunk, just the very opposite. It's supposed to open up our mouths to tell the story of the Exodus. On Purim, since we're going to get drunk, so we read the Megillah first. We have to read, the story is important, but we first make sure that you read it, then go and Vashich, and start eating the Sudat Purim. But on Pesach, it's not like this. On Pesach, we eat and we drink to open up the heart, and from the heart to open up our mouths and to tell the story. That's why it says that Pesach, the Arizal says that the very word Pesach is short for Pesach. Not just that it's the first letter that means Peh, but it's an explicit saying that Pesach is short for the mouth that talks. Sach is a synonym for talking. The talking mouth. So Pesach, the literal meaning of Pesach is the name of the sacrifice. Something else that we also eat, which we eat in the time that the temple stands. But by the time there is a temple, we have a sacrifice to eat, we have the matzah to eat. Those two are from the Torah, from the written Torah. And then we have the wine to drink, which is from the oral Torah. Now we don't have the Korban Pesach. So much more the literal meaning of Pesach is the Korban, is the sacrifice. But if I think of Pesach, in the Torah it's called Chag HaMatzot. So it's called the holiday of matzahs, of eating the matzot. But it says that the greatest, actually, the Surah said the greatest mitzvah that we perform on the Seder night is telling the story. Telling this, which is the Haggadah. We say the Haggadah whilst we're drinking our 4 cups of wine. The first one, which is the greatest, the Kiddush, is before we start. Then we begin telling the story until the 2nd cup, and then the 3rd cup, until finally we conclude with the 4th cup of wine. There were those, like the Maharami Prague, that actually drank another cup, a 5th cup, for that 5th word, Ve'iveti, I will bring you to the land of Israel, which is the much more the epitome of the redemption. So we have here an eating mouth and a drinking mouth and a talking mouth. The difference between the eating and the drinking and the talking is that the eating and drinking is what's in, and the talking is what comes out. About wine especially, it says, Nichnas yayin, yatsa sod. That when wine goes in, then so the secrets, all the secrets go out. The illusion is because the two words wine, yayin, and sod and secret are the same gematria, the same number. They both equal 70. 70 goes in, and 70 comes out. Nichnas yayin, yatsa sod. The final idea that we'll say also in short about Purim and Pesach, that it has to do with the Torah reading of this week, which is one of the weeks between the two times that we have to connect. We read about the 2 elder sons of Aaron, HaKohen, Nadav, Avihu, that brought a Eshazara, foreign fire of the incense on the day of the inauguration of the tabernacle. And because they were not commanded to bring this, and they did it just volunteered by themselves, with tremendous holy aspiration, fire came out from heaven, entered into their nose, the 2 nostrils, and burnt the soul alive, meaning that they passed away, and the body remained intact, complete. There's a phrase in one of the greatest commentaries on the Torah, it's called the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, and the idiom that he uses is that they ascended from this world, they left this world B'neimut, Arevut, Yedidut, Metikut, with infinite there are 4 different idioms or synonyms for infinite pleasure and different words for the same idea, pleasure, and just one of them also means friendship actually. The mut, arevut, yedidut, metikut, the initial letter spell the word name, pleasantness and pleasure and friendship and sweetness. That's actually the 4 words. Ni'imut is pleasantness, and then arivut, the second word, is pleasure. And the third word, yedidut, is friendship, companionship. And the fourth word, mitikut, is sweetness. And that's the way that they left the world with this experience. But still they did something which they were not supposed to do. What was it spiritually? So the expression in Kabbalah and Hasidut is they had a state of run without return. It says, Hashem gives us the Torah, we should live, but it should be a source of life, not a source of death. He doesn't want us to die for God. Sometimes there's no alternative in certain situations. You have to be Mikadashim Shammai. But the Torah was not given to die, the Torah was given to live. Now the soul has a pulse to it. And that pulse is called the Chayot Ratzon Vashov, that the life force is in a continual state of run and return. If a person is desired to become one, or to enter within the oneness of Hashem, just become a part of Hashem, and he doesn't want to return to earth, just wants to take off, take away. That's what they wanted, and that's what they did. They accomplished. These two sons of Aaron. So that is called in Kabbalah Ratzon B'Lishov, running without returning. And God wants us to return. He doesn't want it to remain there. Deep down, these two holidays of Purim and Pesach are also run and return. So we said before, Purim is a holiday that we reach Ad Lo Yada. We take this mashke, this drink, and more and more and more until we just live. We live reality. That's good. On Purim, it's good. That God doesn't want us to remain there. That's why immediately after Purim, together with Marbim B'Simcha, one more important thing about Purim, the holiday of Purim, that Purim comes from the word pru. Just like I said, we talked about Marbim B'Simcha is revu, multiply. But Purim, the very word Purim relates to pru. In Aramaic, the word puria, which is Purim, is a bed. Because I'll say, why is Purim a bed? What does it mean? Because a bed is the vehicle or the vessel through which being fruitful and multiplying is fulfilled. The whole holiday, of course, also for the sake of reproduction, procreation, plural, through Simcha. But once more, in Purim, there's the high that we reach can be so high that maybe we're not going to return, not going to come out of it. There's a famous story in the Gemara that once on Purim, in the midst of being drunk on Purim, one of the sages slaughtered the other sage. But the next morning he woke up and he said that his friend is lying there on the floor. And he prayed, he asked for mercy from God, and he resurrected him, his friend. The next year he invited him again to say, no more, once was enough. So what does that story teach us? It teaches us that Purim is really a day of leaving reality altogether. But Pesach, if Pesach would be if the wine would be the essence of Pesach, it would also be run. Much more the wine is the run, but the bread, the unleavened bread, the matzah, is the return. That's coming from Chokmah. That's the essential mitzvah of eating And telling the story, and by telling the story, experiencing that in every generation, every day, and every moment of every day, we are to experience Exodus. And so he says the time to think about the Exodus is when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The true Exodus from all the confines of this world is our faith, our perfect faith in the absolute unity of God. That's the Exodus. That's a consciousness, a state of consciousness that we should have continuously. As soon as we say Shema Yisrael, we immediately say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto V'Yalavet. Blessed be the name of the glory of His kingdom forever and ever. That also produces a shuv, a return in the soul. So one of the secrets of uniting, this is the final idea that I'm saying, of uniting these two holidays and these two redemptions of Purim and Pesach, is to enter into a consummate state of run. The run should be a true run. No limitation to the run. But, paradoxically, eternity. That's what Hashem really wants. He wants us to come down and to make this world, this lower world, a dwelling place for Him. That's the reason He created the world in the first place. And so these were the basic ideas of connecting these two redemptions in this time, and thereby meriting the final redemption of Mashiach. B'meira b'yameinu. Is it up? Are there any questions? Or? Yes.
How does mourning during Sephiros play it, and is it important to mourn throughout the whole Sephiros? I mean,
The mourning in Sfirat Omer, you
yeah.
said? That's a good question. We said that repeat the question,
Yes.
that the Simcha increases, augments, and accelerates all the way to the Lakachti. Lakachti is I will take you, which refers to Chag Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. And the 49 days before is Sfirat Omer. And the first 6 of those 49 days are in Pesach itself, a part of Pesach. And the whole day of Pesach, we have to be happy. We can't mourn nonetheless. When Pesach is over and then there's a remainder of the month of Nisan, we also don't mourn. But in Sfirat Omer, most people, for instance, don't hear or play live music. Because of Sfirat Omer, there are many other minhagim that we don't, things that we don't do on Sfirat Omer. So it appears that it's not such a happy time. That's the question. Very good question. So first let's get... Every month in the year has a sense in Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, which is attributed to Avraham Avinu. Every month has a sense. Usually we speak of 5 senses. People think that there are 5 senses. But in Sefer Yetzirah and Kabbalah says there are 12 senses, because every month has a sense in every tribe. There are 12 tribes of Israel, and each one of the tribes has its sense. A sense is like a talent. It's personal, particular talent to it. Adar was still in the month of Adar. What's the sense of Adar? Sense of laughter. Or we can even call it a sense of humor. So, if anybody is a little bit lacking a sense of humor, this is the time to get it. Because the sense of laughter is what about the next month of Pesach, of Nisan? It says the sense of speech. Speech is one of the 12 senses. And that's why it says that the ultimate mitzvah of Pesach is telling the story. V'higadat al-Bina. Saying the Haggadah, talking about it. Kol ha-marbeh, l'saper, whoever increases more and more, l'saper v'yitziat Mitzrayim, harei ze meshubach, is to be praised, is praiseworthy. We won't go through all the 12, just the next one. because the month of Iyar is the entire month is the month of Sfirat Omer. And that's, if you think of a month that there's a little bit, there may not different customs, like mourning, it's in that month of Iyar. What's the high point of mourning? There are two high points in the month of Iyar. One from the Torah and one from the sages. The one which is more known is actually the one from the sages, Lag BaOmer. You know, the Rashbi. The Rashbi of Shem Bar Yochai, as he goes, Hafredech Rebbe. Of all of the Rebbes, he's the happiest. There was a Talmud of the Arizal that used to mourn over the temple every day and say Nachem, like we say on Tisha B'Av every day, it's a sort of prayer. And Rashbi, not alive in this world. And you go to Miron, like maybe hundreds of thousands of people go to Miron every year. So he didn't want anybody to be sad. And he even said that if anybody will be sad, it won't be good. If you come here to me, you have to be happy. It doesn't matter what day. This is my day. So actually there was one very great Mikubal, mystic, that mourned over the temple on Lag BaOmer in the presence of Rashbi, of his Zion, his tomb, and a bad ending came. So it has a great joy in this day. A few days before that, there's a holiday from the Torah. Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. If you didn't observe the first Pesach, you had another chance. What does it teach us? There's always another chance. These are the two important days in this month. It's never too late. Two teachings of the year. Never too late. If you want to be around me, you better smile. So you don't smile, be aware. What about the whole month? What is the sense of the whole month? So the sense of Nisan, the sense of speech, the sense of Iyar is a corresponding sense. It's called the sense of thought. What's an example of a sense of thought? Probably everybody has heard a famous expression of Hasidut. It's called positive, in English. It's also very important, well-known expression. Positive thinking. How do you say it in Yiddish? Positive thinking. Tracht gut wird sein. Will think good, it'll be good. Whereas that reality will shape itself in accordance with the way you shape it in your thought. The thought is tremendous, but this is called the sense or the talent of this month. That word machshava, thought, the letters permute to spell besimcha, with joy. Yivdu et Hashem besimcha. So the way it's explained, this is the answer to your question, the way it's explained that Iyar, the month, is similar to the way we explained before Mamahatim B'Simcha. It's a month that the mind is, the service of the mind is to experience joy in thought, which means to think good, to visualize a good scenario. A person sometimes thinks that he's in a bad scenario. Write a new play script in your mind. See how happy it's going to be. That's the talent of Iyar. So even though at the external level there are things that we do that appear as mourning. Why? First of all, why? What's the reason for the mourning? The reason is because there are 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva that died in this period. The way it's usually explained is that they were part of the Bar Kokhba revolution. That's what it's not a period of mourning from the Torah. It's not because, not something to come out of something to have. It's because of this, probably, according to many opinions, the Bar Kokhba, Bar Koziva revolution, and Rabbi Akiva was the major supporter of Bar Kokhba. Rabbi Akiva, the greatest of the Tanaim, means that he sent his kids, his students, to war against the Romans. Now there's a whole big thing in Israel. Do Yeshiva Pochrim go to the army or not? He sent all of his students to the army, and 24,000 were killed. And that's why this period is a period of mourning, because of this story. If we want to rectify that itself, so how do we do it? We have to go to the army and win. How do we win? We also win through joy, through trust with the time, through correct thought, correcting our thoughts. So this was all an answer to your question. It's a very appropriate question. Okay, something else?
Is there a relationship between Purim and Kippurim? Because Kippurim translates like Purim.
Right.
Sounds like it should be. I just don't know what it is.
Okay, the question is that we're taught that Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippur, so the holiest day of the year, the word Kippurim spells Kippurim, like Purim. So there's something about Yom Kippur that's like, what is it like? What's the likeness? What's the connection between the two? Also, even more so, since Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, is just like Purim, it means that Purim is more than Yom Kippur. So what could that be? It says, the common denominator that both these 2 days of the year reach what is called the Goral, or the Mazal. But why is Purim called Purim? Because Haman cast a lot. The lot is called Goral. And a lot falls on something which is not intended. It's not an intention of the mind. Meaning that it's coming from a place which is super rational. On Yom Kippur also there was a lot that was cast between the two goats. Which goat is going to be sacrificed for Hashem in the temple, and which goat is going to be sent to Azazel to atone for all the sins of the people in a manner that there's no comparative, nothing like it in the whole year, in the whole Torah. It's a service that just takes place on Yom Kippur when there's a temple. But it's not in the temple, it's outside the temple. So we're taking that Sa'ir Lazazel and throwing him down a mountainside. So that lot of which one is for Hashem and which one is going for Azazel, both are in order to atone. That the essential atonement is the one Azazel. That is the resemblance. That both of these holidays reach a place which is super rational. Which is called the lot, the destiny. Everyone reaches up to his destiny on Yom Kippur, and even more so on Purim. That's why Yom Kippur is just like Purim. So that idea we also have to connect to Pesach. It's part of the redemption of Purim. Is one of the women?
Your lecture was just now speaking about Purim being the holiday of Ratzot and Pesach Shov, we have to come back down. So I relate the idea of the Ratzot to, we say that on Purim, Kimu v'Kiblu, that they took upon themselves actively, so that's, going up, right? And that's Ratzot. But I don't understand where do we see in the actual Megillah, where do you see that Jews Hashem and wanting to accept the Torah out of Ahava.
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, the Ratzol of Purim, which is the reason that Hashem gave us this miracle, this great miracle, redeemed us, saved our lives on Purim, is because for a whole year we were in a state of Mesirut Nefesh, a state of Ratzol of Ran, that we were willing to die and not betray our faith. Because it says that if someone would have betrayed his Judaism, he would not be under the decree of Haman. Like if someone would convert to whatever faith, belief system they had there in Persia at that time, which was also a question of exactly what their belief was. Even in one place it says that Haman represented a new Zoroaster faith in Persia. Had the people Chas v'sholom accepted that faith, that new religion, the decree would not have fallen upon them. Because the decree was only on Am Mordechai, the people that believes in the God of Mordechai, just like Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the Torah with the belief in Hashem. That's why we say, Vayaminu v'Hashem Moshe Abdo, that we believe in God and we believe in the way Moses taught us the absolute unity of God. So once more, the Ratzol of Purim, it says that year of readiness, we had no inkling of where the salvation could possibly come from. And we were the whole people was ready to die. Now, what you said, the pasuk that you said, Kimu v'kibla Yehudim, is very, very important for us. That's at the end, that's after it all took place. Historically, the second year after Purim, after the miracle took place, there was a show, a return. And afterwards, because of the miracle that Hashem did, because of their Ratzon and Mesirut Nefesh, so they received the whole Torah anew from love, not from fear. From Sinai until Purim, the Torah was from fear. After Purim was over, then the whole Torah was received again anew from love. And that's definitely a show of Kimu v'Kibru. Rabbi Ginsburgh, the Kedushas Levi, says that the first time that they read the Megillah after Purim, they read the story. They relived and re-experienced the story after Purim. They received such a tremendous arousal of the soul to Hashem, to keep, to observe Purim forever and ever. It says only Purim will remain forever and ever. And the Megillah, together with the Chamisha, the 5 books of Moses. And that arousal of the soul to keep Purim and to keep the whole Torah of Moses forever and ever, was in virtue of their first fulfillment of the mitzvah. Of the mitzvah, that this much is the aftermath of the miracle itself. So there definitely was a show. The show was so great that itself indicates that the Ratzol was great, because they're all, one is corresponds to the other. The Ratzol was so ultimate until the miracle happened that afterwards the show was very, very great.
If you could just help me a little bit more, because I see it backwards and I'm not seeing it the way you're presenting it, because if they were prepared to give up their lives, it was out of fear. And that, to me, is
just the opposite.
the
They
fear
didn't
of
have to fear
death.
at all. They could just convert to Zoroastrianism, and then they would be alive. Because of their desire not to be severed from God, from Hashem, whereupon Ayid, neither can, neither will, neither me'adokos, that's the expression, a Jew, it's impossible for him to sever himself from God. So in this time of This is a trial. Like Abraham Avinu went through 10 trials. Every trial brings out of the soul, run. I'm not going to sever myself from God. That's run. That's Ratzon. One moment.
How do we increase our joy?
How do we increase our joy? That's a good question. That's first thing is to smile. There's a phrase from the question of how do we increase our joy. There's a famous saying of the Baal Shem Tov that he says that there are 3 things that are not an explicit commandment in the Torah, but they're the greatest of all. And one, the greatest in the sense that the most necessary for a person to have to succeed in the mission of his life. One is sein klug. Be smart, don't be stupid. So you could ask the same question, well, what do you mean be smart? Maybe a person is stupid. Now there's all series of books, everything is for idiots. So we're all idiots. We're not fulfilling this, the first commandment of the Torah. Be smart, don't be dumb. What's the second? The second is be happy. So it's similar. Just like be smart and don't be dumb, be happy and don't be sad. So the question is how do you do it? So actually the continuation to the phrase. The phrase says, by seeing the kernel of goodness in everything that happens. What's more, joy has to do with meditation. As we said before, with the sense of thought, with mother. The mother principle is meditation. Bina. Everything that happens in the world, especially things that happen to you in your personal life, to contemplate and to search in your mind for the kernel of goodness, of God's providence. And that's what makes you happy, to be happy in finding the point of good in everything. That's commandment number 2. Commandment number 3 is called Zrizus B'Mesilos. It's a unique idiom of the Baal Shem Tov. Agility in deliberation. Deliberate agility. Fast and slow. Be fast, slow. We always like to say that the ideal person, the image of a person that was quick, but everything was well thought out, which means he was deliberate, whilst being quick. That's if you look at the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Fast and settled. So these are the 3 pillars of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. Be smart, be happy, and work, be fast and slow.
Just to follow up on that, I think all of those things require at least one common capability, which is processing speed. Because if the system is clogged, you can't work through one thing before you have to deal with the next. And these days, I can't really speak for everybody, I can speak for me, that's impossible. I'm still working on processing things from years ago. I never mind things that happen in real time. So it's very difficult to catch up, to be deliberate but also precise, or to be able to process out the the negative shell of what's happening to get to the inner kernel, or to be smart and not stupid. So what do we do to clear up our system, speed up our processing abilities so that we can actually do this, especially when things happen at such a pace?
Okay, so the basic word that you said is process. We have to learn how to process things well. Very often there's a teaching that we find difficult to fulfill. We want to, we would like to, but it seems beyond our capabilities. In any such situation, it says that the way is to connect to the source of that teaching, and the source of that teaching is the soul of that sage who told us to do it. Because just like the Creator, it says that the Creator never tells us to do something that we can't do. And if we think that we can't do it, that it's too hard, too much for us to do, and we have to, the beginning of that processing is to reconnect to where it's coming from, where the teaching, where the precept is coming from. So in this case, it's coming from the Baal Shem Tov. So what I will say to you is every day learn a saying of the Baal Shem Tov. That will help you, help me also, and help you, and help all of us to be able to process all the flow of our lives, and to be smart, happy, and agile, fast, connected to the Baal Shem Tov. Yes.
I'm trying to understand how one can have an elevated amount of joy from Purim, and yet at the same time have a diminished amount of joy coming into Pesach.
Why diminished?
I thought that's what you had said earlier.
No.
That it's elevated and then it becomes diminished, but you
It's
have
diminished
both.
on the dry Bach and on Tisha, on
Into Tisha B'Av, okay.
much later. Now we're just in the process of elevation and acceleration. Okay, so we should have run and return, and we should have still continue the experience of Purim and enter the experience of Pesach, and merit all of us the true and complete redemption by Mashiach Tzidkenu. Echad Miyavah Mashiach.
You might want to announce tomorrow what it's going to be.
Hopefully everybody's seen the announcements for tomorrow.
Where?
That's the address. Yeah.
Yeah, 53 Bevshire.
Okay. That's 7:30, and then there's a bring in the Chabad gate at 9:30. Well, so there's still space, so you better RSVP tonight.
The email address doesn't work.
No RSVP for the bring. Anybody can drink. You keep drinking, enjoy.
Women too at the Purim?
Yes.
I'm bringing the date.
So there's books and CDs outside, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you.
April? And then when how long will you
You have to make your own decision.
It's not that long. No, I think if you come with me, I'll just want to say hi. I don't know. I don't want to say hi. I just want to.
Oh, Rabbi Ginsburgh is signing the book.
Marv?
What do you say?
Goes out?